Coaching Game. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Desheen Evans. Hey, Desheen.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. I got a whole bunch of questions for Desheen, but first let me tell you that as you can see at the bottom, and I have to keep reminding you, it's a trauma-informed care expert. We're going to find out what that is and how that came about. But Desheen is also, in addition to all of that, she is... she co-authored 3 international best-selling books, and she's got one of her own coming out very soon called Inspirational You. We're going to find out about that. But first, Desheen, let me welcome you to the Coaching Game.
Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And ask you, what the heck is a trauma-informed care expert? What is that?
Okay.
And how'd you get into it?
So trauma-informed care is you take situations that have been traumatic, and you put certain tools in place that will address that. And that way you are informing the people that you're working with and the people that you are training.
Okay, so trauma, so it should be, it's trauma informed care specialist. So it's like informed care specialist of trauma. Okay,
exactly.
Got it. I think I got it now. Okay, yeah. Okay. So what you do is you take tools that people who have been through traumatic experiences can use, and you coach them and help them get through that.
Absolutely. And so for me, because everyone's situation is different, what I do is, because I know that what may be perceived to be a traumatic experience to one person may not be perceived to be trauma to another person, but that is that person's trauma. And so in working with that person, I will create a coaching package around the traumatic experience that that individual has had.
I like that. No judgment. It's like, I remember when I was in maybe I was 10 years old, and I'd already had 2 deaths in the family, and I think some major person had died, and my girlfriend said, I don't understand. My dog died, and I didn't get that upset. And I'm going, God, she's so lucky, you know. But trauma, to her, that was her trauma. So I love that it's no judgment, you know. It's like, because I was going, really? That's your trauma? Okay. But once I got older and more mature, it's like, all right, she must have been that upset. Do you deal with post-traumatic trauma and things like that also? Yeah.
Absolutely, but to a degree. And the reason why I say to a degree, because I am a social worker also. So I have an MSW, and I also have an MPA, Yeshiva and John Jay. Okay. And so the thing is that with the social work, that's more of the clinical diagnosis. And in coaching, you do not provide diagnosis. No. And so you cannot switch those hats.
Not for that one. That one, that one scares me a little. It's like, oh, I'd love to help you, but So.
And actually,
do you make that distinction, or do you leave it to experts to make that distinction? I mean, can you tell if someone's like, oh, you know what, this is beyond my bandwidth?
For the most part, yes, I can.
You can. Good.
And actually, in my training program, because I have a code of ethics. I have a license to my training program, and you also need to sign a consent, because the thing is that I don't ever want to see a coach. You are attempting to provide a service, and once you determine that this person has mental health needs that needs to be addressed, that is separate, and you should by no means continue that service because you want to get paid.
Yeah, that's never a good reason to continue the service.
And I mean, I've seen it. And it's not, as a coach, you are not licensed to provide a diagnosis.
So what kind of trauma, and I'm certainly not asking you to give away your client's secrets, but what kind of trauma would you help someone with?
So for me, it's whatever the person deems a traumatic experience. And I start there. The reason why I start there is because I know from years of experience in the field that a person that has gone through trauma, there are times, and it's very likely that for that individual, anything that happens, any experience will be perceived as trauma for them. And so in working with them, it's getting them to a place that they can begin to change the lens, and so that they will see situations differently and they will view the world differently. And see, that is key, because you have to start there, unless everything for that individual is going to be perceived as trauma, and that's not necessarily the case.
Ah, so you have to clean the lens first. I like that.
Absolutely.
Then you can get a clearer vision. Well, it's like, what on earth, you have got so much experience and so many degrees and all that jazz. What made you decide, oh, this is where I want to be?
Well, for me, I worked in the field pretty much with the city for over 25 years. And I've experienced a lot, including my own trauma, childhood trauma, and also adult trauma. And so, in working in the field and with my own, I've kept a journal. I used to call it my little black book, but it's a journal. And I wrote down a lot of things that did not resonate with me, things that I believe that could be enhanced. And so, in working the social service field, you are kind of limited on what services that you can provide. And even as a social worker, you do a lot of coaching.
Right, yes, because I started out as my degrees in sociology. I had no idea it was called coaching, and it wasn't.
Exactly.
Now it
Back
is.
then it wasn't,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It was like case management.
Exactly,
So it's kind of along the same realm, if you will. And so I wanted to be able to do more without limitations. And it was actually an accident for me. I was finishing my second master's. I was at John Jay, and I won a scholarship, and I went to Italy to study. And I came back, and the very next day, I drove down from Dutchess County to the Bronx to see a client, and I was on the highway en route to another client, and I had an accident. And so it was very hard initially for me to bounce back. And as time went on, you know, surgeries and so forth, not being able to work, I realized that this was my true calling. And so I started working on my coaching
who helped
business.
you?
Really, I helped myself. I had a difficult time.
That's very unusual. And then you go, oh, I want to do that.
And
But you know what? I love coaches who do that, take their own experience and move it further. It's like, okay, I can go into a hole and never come out, or I can create eyes of power. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for me, although I did have money, and that's good when you are starting a business because it puts you a little bit ahead. You don't have to borrow. And it was a little challenge. Well, it wasn't a little. It was very challenging, I should say, because I had the option of paying people, and initially I did, and I started to realize that, you know, it's business. It's nothing personal. Everyone's in the profession to make money. I get it.
Yeah.
And I said, if I'm ever going to be successful in my business, then I need to learn the business language, like revenue, ramp up, all the things that you need to understand, SEO, and you know, those things. And so what I would do is spend a lot of time and just educate myself. And then I went through the process of getting my company certified as an MWBE, which is an acronym for Minority Woman Business Enterprise.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Right. And so I did that, and I took a bunch of courses, and I says, okay, you know, I'm tired of going to workshops. I need to make money. And so if I continue to go into training, how am I going to make money? And so there was an opportunity with the city, and I says, wow, you know, I would like to go after this. It was a RFP, acronym for Request for a Proposal.
The city has nothing but acronyms, but yes.
I reached out, and I kind of got together a team of 4 to embark on a journey with me. It was, I'm just going to share a $6 million contract, and we did win.
Wow.
So
a friend and I tried to do, we were going to do that, and we just got stymied by the paperwork. It was like, never
Very
mind.
overwhelming.
Never mind. It's
Very
like,
overwhelming.
Whatever we get out of this, it won't. Good for you. I admire your tenacity, because they do not make it easy. Good for you.
No. And so, but what I can say is that that entire experience was extremely traumatic for me.
I understand that perfectly.
Yes, I was very frustrated, and then what I learned to do was focus more on my strengths. That, wow, you know, you've been in business 3 years, you are really the business link because you're able to schedule meetings, get the team to come to meetings, which really the city would have nothing to do with them if it wasn't for me, because I'm an MWBE, so I get the PTAC support.
Yeah.
I got a lot of support from the city consultant, a lot of different trainings, things that I didn't know. And so once I figured it out, I says, no. I says, you know what? You know exactly what you're doing. You just need to position yourself differently. And so I started making changes in my own business where I can establish myself that I want to be in a position that you use this as leverage, because you just don't want to focus on 6 million. You want to position yourself that you can make that over and over and over. And so I says, okay, what I need to do is create. So I started creating my own formula. My training programs, they're all authentic. They're based on real case studies, because I walk around a lot in the communities and I'm always talking to people because I want to know what's going on. I want to know how you're feeling. And this is what I work off of, because I know that it's not carved in stone. My training programs, I have a questionnaire and I learn about the culture, and I found that to be extremely important because, for example, the African American community, I think it's very important to understand that culture. So I have a course on Black trauma, the collective identities, because you have to understand that. Because I know for me as a woman of color, I don't like people talking down to me. I'll talk to you, but you know, we pick up very quick that we know that if you're talking down to us or if you are talking to us. And
I think women of color have a sensitivity that women of not color, and I do have color, but don't have. And I think it's like a spidey sense. You know, it's like it's a sense, and it's something that I have learned to appreciate. It's like I don't see it, but I'm going to trust that you see it because I'm not in your skin, literally and figuratively, and. So it's a sensitivity, and I understand what you're saying, a collective identity, because my husband was Black, and I would notice when he would meet a Black person, they would have this, you know, and nobody ever said anything to me, and it was just and I go, okay, I'm a little jealous. We don't do that, you know, but it's a whole collective identity that I think white people need to learn, you know, especially white people, and I'm sure people of other cultures also. So I'm glad that you're addressing that, and first of all, just calling it and saying, you know, we've got this spidey sense that you might not have. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
We got it. So good for you. Good for you.
I agree. And just to kind of go back a little bit, because I wanted to piggyback real quickly on when I say the traumatic experiences that I've had with this whole ordeal with the proposal, and you know, it's important that people, because everyone wants to feel appreciated, and I'm going to focus on being a woman of color, is that when I bring something to the table, you know, it's like you want to be valued, and you know when you're not appreciated. You know, and as I said, there was a lot of struggles, but for me, it was just important to position myself that I want to protect my piece of the pie because I worked hard for that. And that's when I really, really learned how to play.
Good.
And so now I'm just hitting home runs.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Good for you.
And I'm excited about that.
When you say tools, because you had said, so I bring to them tools and, you know, to help them with the trauma. Did you create those tools yourself?
Absolutely.
Really? Wow.
Absolutely, because what I find is that there's not a one-size-fit-all. And going back to people of color, when we say deep breathing, I'm not saying that it doesn't work. However, but what I am saying is that I know for myself, even as a person of color, if I'm upset, that's not really something that I'm going to do. And so I don't like when people say that to me.
Oh, see, that's
Just
my first piece of advice. Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath.
I even said it to you. I said, take a deep breath.
Right. I mean,
and then when we came on air, so you couldn't yell at me. Okay.
That may work for one person, but it's not a one size fit all. So, for example, I have a anger response management training that I do. I don't do anger management because for me, managing anger is like managing a car. When you park it, do you sit there and watch it? You park it and you go on about your business.
Right.
It's the same thing with the anger. You park it and you go about your business. The only time that you're going to come back to that car, you look at the sign so you know that you have to move it at a certain time, or there's one or two things that's going to happen. You're going to get a ticket or they're going to tow it. If you park your anger, there's one or two things that's going to happen. You're going to explode. You can hurt someone or potentially hurt yourself and get into trouble. So you know that you have to do something with the car. You have to do something with your anger. And that also taps into the trauma piece. And the end game to that is shifting the mindset. Because the mind taps into your thoughts and your emotions and your responses. So they all intertwine.
Let me ask you, do you use anger as a tool? Do you use anger as an incentive? Because I do.
I absolutely do. But what I like to do is I'll have two separate boards that I work from, and I want people to write down all the things that they care about and all the things that they don't care about. And then I cross-reference. So you know that if you care about, for example, these Jordans, or you have some that they like to go to the club or they want to smoke weed or whatever it is that they do, and you know that if you do X, Y, and Z and you don't do something with that anger, these are the things that's going to happen. And so a technique that I started when I worked with the youth in foster care was I helped them to take the same songs, which some of us may see as crazy songs, and some of it was like a bunch of garbage cans making noise, but it meant something to that person. And so I would use that song, and I found it to be very successful that when the person is angry and they play that song, you and I may hear it one way, but that person is hearing it very different. And for them, that's deep breathing. And people ask me all the time, how are you able to do that? And it goes back to social work. When we say meeting the client where the client is, that's exactly what that means. So again, it's not carved in stone, and this is how they're able to respond differently.
Now let me either open it up or close it down. Your emphasis so far has been on people of color. Do you also deal with people not of color? I don't know what to call me. White.
No, absolutely.
White
I deal with all cultures because I want to learn about cultures, because we don't just live around one culture.
Yeah, I don't want people to think you're limited, which would be fine.
Oh, no.
Which would be fine.
We're very diverse, and it's important. And it is important because when you have a company, even when you go outside, you're dealing with the general public. So you're just not going to be confined. Even if you live in a neighborhood that is what they would say the ghetto, there's still other cultures around you. And it's important to understand that, because I can't tell you how many times because my background is community organizer, so I walk a lot and I listen. And I do community assessments. And so, for example, you have some cultures that they don't use deodorant. You have some cultures that they use certain oils. And I know even myself, a person of color, and I used to say, oh, that perfume, that oil stinks, or this person, they need to wear some deodorant. But it's offensive to the person.
Absolutely. And I know if people go to Africa, they go, oh my God, the smells, and then you get used to it, and it's like it's no big deal. But I love that it's inclusive, because just like I had no idea deep breathing had no meaning for you, you need to know that that's what works for me, and we need to share that, and so, for this person, it is going to work. So I like that it's inclusive, and that, everybody is judged on their own merit and boogaboos and whatever else they got.
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing too is with the intake that I ask students to complete, or potential coachees to complete beforehand, is because I need to take a moment and I actually review each one of them. For example, real quickly, if I come to you for a service and it's just very easy to add that question. And again, it's not carved in stone. And I want people to be open to making changes, because sometimes you just can't use the same stale questionnaire because time's changing, things are happening, and you need to keep up. And so, for example, if I come to you, Laura, for a service and you don't really know anything about me, but when I'm filling out the intake, if there's a little question, have you ever had any trauma experience or something, you know, just please explain something really similar, it would be helpful. And so, for example, that's not there, so you don't know any of these things. And you do my intake packet and I have to sign. You're going to be my case manager, and you have no printing paper, right? Because you have to print it out, and there's, you know, the boxes that you have with the printing paper, and so you open up your little drawer, and you pull out a box cutter to you know, open it, and
that would give me trauma.
And I kind of freak out,
Yeah,
but you don't understand what's going on
what
with
could be
me.
happening, yeah.
I was attacked by a box cutter,
Okay.
so that means something to me.
Yeah, yeah.
But you wouldn't know that because you haven't asked. And so it's just taking time to really understand. And that goes into the styles of communication.
Definitely, yeah.
Awareness and communication.
Not quick to judge. And unfortunately, I see, like, lately we're all like, everybody's afraid of everybody. And it's like, okay, but hopefully we're getting out of that, but that's okay. But you know what? I want to find out about Eyes of Power. I want to find out about Inspirational You. We only have like 6 minutes, so let's go.
So real quickly, Eyes of Power, as I said, we are certified as an MWBE, and so we
say what that is again.
Minority Woman Business Enterprise.
Okay.
So I am
just in case
the
there's
company
somebody out there who wants
city,
to try.
state, New York, and New Jersey Port Authority. So we can contract with the city and the state as a prime or as a sub.
Oh, okay.
And I also work with private clients, and I create training programs. Excuse me. And so for me, my book, the name of my book is Inspirational You. I am super excited about my book. I was a little behind because when you're writing a book and you're touching on things that have been very traumatic, it's close to home, it's not that easy. There are difficult chapters in a book, and the book is not a memoir, and it is not for sympathy. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me. That's not the purpose of the book. The book is so to empower other people, especially women, because I want you to be able to use those stories and say, well, if she did it, I can do it too.
No, are they stories, your personal stories? Is anyone else included, or just you?
My mom.
Okay.
And things that you can do. So, for example, real quickly, there was a situation that happened last year. Someone was murdered in my building. I was devastated. A week after that, my mom had gone into the hospital. And then right after that, one of my own brothers was murdered. And so it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't come outside. I was traumatized. And my mom became my coach, where she was using the tools that I helped her to use, and she was using them back on me. I says, wow, she's really good at that.
Okay,
and
great.
So real quickly, fast forward this year, the same situation. My mom at the hospital, they had this big thing in front of the building with the candles all over and, all over again. And then my brother, that resurfaced, the death certificate, the ashes, but I'm not going to go into that. That's for the book. And so I found myself in that situation again this year. And so my mom, she's 88, and now she's able to utilize the tools to coach herself.
And you.
And me.
That's amazing.
And so she is a part of one of my coaching programs, but she's going to be coaching seniors to help them get through traumatic experiences. And so the idea, again, is for people to be mindful of their styles of communication and how their behaviors, things that they say, their actions can potentially be the onset to someone else's trauma or re-traumatizing that person. And it's not a pretty picture.
Wow.
So
fantastic. So if they go on Eyes of Power, what are they going to find?
So
they're going to find a way to get your book when it comes out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And
cool.
all the amazing programs that we are in the process of launching. What I did was I went back and I did an analysis of the training programs that I have. And so right now I am actually this weekend revamping everything. And I'm going to be removing a lot of content there and doing short videos because I want people to be able to connect.
I know, and our attention span is getting shorter
exactly.
and shorter.
People don't like to read a lot. Because I don't even like reading there, you know. Really? So, and I just want to be able to help as many people as I can. People will be able to become certified. As I said, I have a license on the program so that they can potentially train other people because we need as many change agents as possible because trauma it's a global epidemic that's happening.
It's global and it's human, you know, it's just really, if you're going to play the game, you win and you lose. And,
right.
You know, and I guess learning how to handle it is really the one of the important things. You chose two of the points of view cards. One is communication, and I think we kind of understand that. It's like you're communicating, and yet you, in the case of your mother, you're cross-pollinating, and you both are helping one another. The awareness. What's the awareness? To be aware of.
To be aware of your styles of communication and be aware of your body language because sometimes you can communicate without saying a word.
Yes, a little tick in the face, an eye roll.
And what happens is that a lot of people find that you're not approachable. And so just for people to be aware of that and also helping people to change the lens, how they view trauma, and just being aware of your responses to a person's trauma, what they believe to be trauma, to be more supportive. And we have to just be aware of that.
And less judgmental, absolutely. I love it because the theme of the show this year, or we started out our first show of the year, was change. And it's like, so to have you on as the next show is so perfect. So what I'm going to recommend to people is that they go on eyesofpower.com and see what Desheen has on there. And I'm not saying go work up a trauma, but I'm saying, because I'm sure your stuff works in normal everyday turmoil also. And check that out and see. But I'm so thrilled that there's somebody out there doing this, especially in these trying times. I'll just say that. In these trying times, definitely. So check out Eyes of Power. And Desheen Evans, thank you so much for being on the coaching game.
You are welcome, my dear.